Are you spending a fortune on fertilizer and still feeling guilty every time you forget to feed your plants? I'm about to reveal 7 stunning perennials that not only survive without fertilizer, they actually perform better when you don't feed them. In plant number 5, it produces more flowers and better color when grown in poor soil with zero fertilizer than it does in rich, amended soil. Stay with me because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly which perennials to plant for gorgeous gardens that thrive on neglect and save you money by eliminating fertilizer from your routine completely. Before we dive into these fertilizer-free perennials, if you're tired of complicated feeding schedules and expensive fertilizer bills, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications right now. We're all about lazy gardening that saves time, money, and effort while still looking amazing. And if you've ever felt overwhelmed by all the fertilizing advice and just wished plants would grow without all the fuss, drop a like on this video. You're about to discover that some of the best plants don't need feeding at all. All right, let's jump right in. Here are 7 perennials that flourish without any fertilizer. Let's talk about the fertilizer industry and why most gardening advice pushes feeding schedules that plants don't actually need. Walk into any garden center and you're bombarded with fertilizers. Bloom boosters, slow-release granules, liquid feeds, organic options, synthetic options, specialized formulas for every plant type. The message is clear. If you want beautiful gardens, you must fertilize regularly. Weekly feeds, monthly applications, spring feeding, fall feeding, the list never ends. But here's what the fertilizer companies don't want you to know. Many plants, especially certain perennials, actually perform worse when over-fertilized. Too much nitrogen causes weak, floppy growth that's susceptible to pests and diseases. Excessive feeding leads to lots of foliage but few flowers. Rich soil can make plants grow too fast, losing their natural compact form and requiring staking. And some plants evolved in nutrient-poor environments where they developed strategies to thrive in lean conditions. When you add fertilizer to these plants, you're actually fighting against their natural adaptations. The perennials I'm sharing today are specifically adapted to poor soil. They evolved in rocky mountainsides, sandy deserts, prairie grasslands, or Mediterranean hillsides where nutrients are scarce. These plants developed deep root systems that mine nutrients from deep in the soil. They form relationships with beneficial soil microbes that help them access nutrients. They grow at a natural, moderate pace that produces strong, sturdy stems. And they bloom prolifically without needing fertilizer boosts. When you choose these fertilizer-free perennials, you get multiple benefits. First, you save money by eliminating fertilizer purchases completely. Second, you save time because there's no feeding schedule to remember or maintain. Third, you get healthier plants with stronger stems, better disease resistance, and more natural growth habits. Fourth, you're gardening more sustainably by reducing chemical inputs. And fifth, you eliminate the risk of fertilizer burn or overfeeding that can damage or kill plants. Whether you're a self-proclaimed lazy gardener who hates maintenance, someone trying to reduce chemical inputs and garden more naturally, a gardener on a budget who can't afford constant fertilizer purchases, or you simply want plants that thrive on neglect, these 7 perennials will completely change your approach to gardening. Let's get started. Plant number 1, lavender. All varieties, but especially English lavender. Lavender is the poster child for plants that hate fertilizer. This iconic Mediterranean herb produces gorgeous purple-blue flowers and incredible fragrance, and it does it best in poor, lean soil with zero feeding. English lavender varieties like Hidcote, Munstead, or Phenomenal are particularly reliable and cold-hardy. Here's why lavender performs better without fertilizer. It evolved in the rocky, nutrient-poor hills of the Mediterranean, where soil is essentially gravel with minimal organic matter. In these harsh conditions, lavender developed compact growth, intense essential oils, and prolific flowering. When you add fertilizer, especially nitrogen-rich fertilizer, lavender grows too fast, produces weak stems that flop over, develops fewer flowers, and has less concentrated essential oils, which means less fragrance. Rich soil also makes lavender more susceptible to root rot and fungal diseases. The key benefit is that neglect produces the best lavender. Plant it in poor soil, never fertilize, and water sparingly. This stress actually triggers lavender to produce more essential oils and stronger stems. The plants stay compact and bushy rather than floppy. The flowers are more abundant and more fragrant, and the plants live longer because they're not being pushed to grow too fast. How to grow lavender without fertilizer. Plant in full sun, at least 6 to 8 hours of direct light. Use very well-draining soil, ideally sandy or gravelly soil with low organic matter. If your soil is rich, amend it with coarse sand or gravel to make it leaner. Add lime if your soil is acidic, as lavender prefers slightly alkaline pH. Space plants 18 to 24 inches apart for good air circulation. Water regularly during the first season to establish roots. Then water only during extended droughts. Lavender is extremely drought tolerant once established. Never add compost, manure, or fertilizer. Prune lightly after flowering to shape plants and remove spent flower stalks. Cut back by 1/3, but never cut into woody stems. Lavender is hardy to zones 5 or 6, depending on variety. In cold climates, choose cold-hardy varieties like Phenomenal or Munstead. Plant number 2, Yarrow, Achillea varieties. Yarrow is a tough, drought-tolerant perennial with ferny foliage and flat-topped flower clusters in colors ranging from white and yellow to pink, red, and burgundy. Varieties like Moonshine have soft yellow flowers with silvery foliage, while Paprika has brilliant red flowers that age to salmon and peach tones. Here's why Yarrow thrives without fertilizer. It's a native plant from grasslands and meadows where soil is lean and nutrients are limited. Yarrow has deep roots that mine nutrients from far below the surface, making it self-sufficient. When you fertilize yarrow, it produces excessive foliage and weak stems that flop and require staking. The plants become more susceptible to powdery mildew and other diseases. And ironically, heavy feeding reduces flowering because the plant puts energy into leaf growth instead of blooms. The key benefit is incredibly long bloom time with zero maintenance. Yarrow flowers from late spring through late summer, sometimes into fall, giving you 3 to 4 months of color. The flat flower clusters are perfect for pollinators, attracting butterflies and beneficial insects. And yarrow is deer-resistant and drought-tolerant, making it perfect for low-maintenance gardens. How to grow yarrow without fertilizer. Plant in full sun in well-draining soil. Yarrow tolerates poor, rocky, or sandy soil and actually prefers it. Avoid planting in rich, heavy, or clay soil, which can cause root rot. Space plants 18 to 24 inches apart. Water regularly during establishment, then water only during severe drought. Yarrow is extremely drought tolerant once established. Never fertilize. If you have very poor soil that produces weak growth, you can add a tiny amount of compost at planting time, but this is rarely necessary. Deadhead spent flowers to encourage continuous blooming or leave flower heads for winter interest and to feed seed-eating birds. Cut plants back to basal foliage in late fall or early spring. Divide every 3 to 4 years in spring or fall if clumps become too large. Yarrow is cold-hardy to zone 3. Plant number 3, Russian sage, Perovskia triplycifolia. Russian sage is a stunning perennial with silvery gray, aromatic foliage and tall, airy spikes of lavender blue flowers from midsummer through fall. It grows 3 to 4 feet tall and creates a hazy, cloud-like effect in the garden. Here's why Russian sage hates fertilizer. It's native to the steppes of Central Asia, where soil is poor, rocky, and nutrient deficient. In these harsh conditions, Russian sage developed woody stems, deep taproots, and the ability to thrive on minimal resources. When you fertilize Russian sage, it grows too tall and floppy, requiring staking. The stems become weak and susceptible to flopping in wind or rain. The plants produce excessive foliage and fewer flowers. And rich soil makes Russian sage more prone to fungal diseases. The key benefit is architectural beauty with zero care. Russian sage provides height and structure in borders without needing support. The flowers bloom for months, attracting bees and butterflies. The silvery foliage adds cooling color contrast. And the plants are deer-resistant, drought-tolerant, and completely pest and disease-free when grown in lean soil. How to grow Russian sage without fertilizer? Plant in full sun in well-draining soil. Russian sage performs best in poor to average soil and struggles in rich, amended soil. Avoid adding compost or organic matter at planting. Space plants 24 to 36 inches apart. Water regularly during the first season to establish deep roots, then water only during extended droughts. Russian sage is extremely drought-tolerant once established. Never fertilize. The only maintenance required is cutting the plant back hard in early spring before new growth starts. Cut to 6 to 12 inches from the ground. This encourages bushy growth and prevents the plant from becoming too woody. Remove spent flower stalks in fall if you prefer tidy gardens, or leave them for winter structure. Russian sage is cold-hardy to zone 4. Plant number 4, Sedum, especially upright varieties like Autumn Joy. Sedum is a succulent perennial with thick, fleshy leaves and flat-topped flower clusters that bloom in late summer and fall. Autumn Joy is the classic variety with pink flowers that mature to copper red and look beautiful even when dried in winter. Here's why sedum performs beautifully without fertilizer. It's a succulent adapted to rocky, poor soil where nutrients are scarce. Sedum stores water and nutrients in its thick leaves, making it self-sufficient. The plant naturally grows at a moderate pace, producing strong, sturdy stems. When you fertilize sedum, it grows too fast and produces weak, floppy stems that fall over. The plant becomes leggy and loses its compact form. And excessive nitrogen causes sedum to focus on leaf growth rather than flower production. The key benefit is perfect form and maximum flowers without any feeding. Unfertilized sedum develops into neat, mounded plants with self-supporting stems that never need staking. The flower production is prolific because the plant isn't wasting energy on excessive leaf growth. And the plants are virtually indestructible, tolerating drought, heat, cold, poor soil, and complete neglect. How to grow sedum without fertilizer? Plant in full sun in very well-draining soil. Sedum tolerates rocky, sandy, or gravelly soil and actually prefers it. Space plants 18 to 24 inches apart. Water regularly during establishment, then water only when soil is completely dry. Sedum is extremely drought-tolerant and more likely to die from overwatering than underwatering. Never fertilize. In fact, actively avoid planting sedum in rich soil or adding compost. If your soil is very rich, mix in sand or gravel to make it leaner. The only maintenance required is cutting back dead stems in late fall or early spring.
Many gardeners leave the dried flower heads standing through winter because they look beautiful covered in frost or snow. Divide sedum every 4 to 5 years in spring if clumps become too large. Sedum is cold-hardy to zone 3. Plant number 5, Coreopsis, threadleaf varieties like Moonbeam or Zagreb. This is the plant I mentioned that actually produces more flowers in poor soil. Coreopsis is a native wildflower with fine, thread-like foliage and daisy-like flowers in shades of yellow. Moonbeam has soft, pale yellow flowers, while Zagreb has brighter golden yellow blooms. Both flower continuously from June through September. Here's why Coreopsis blooms better without fertilizer. It evolved on the American prairies, where soil is lean and plants compete for resources. In these conditions, Coreopsis developed a strategy of producing abundant flowers to attract pollinators and set seed for reproduction. When you add fertilizer, particularly nitrogen, Coreopsis shifts its energy from flowering to foliage production. The plant grows lush and green, but produces significantly fewer flowers. The stems also grow longer and weaker, causing the plant to flop. The key benefit is non-stop blooms for 4 months with zero effort. Unfertilized Coreopsis stays compact and produces flowers continuously without deadheading. The fine foliage creates a soft, airy texture. The flowers attract butterflies and beneficial insects, and the plants are drought-tolerant, deer-resistant, and pest-free.
How to grow Coreopsis without fertilizer. Plant in full sun in average to poor soil. Coreopsis actually struggles in rich, heavy soil. Avoid adding compost or amendments. Space plants 12 to 18 inches apart. Water regularly during establishment, then water only during severe drought. Coreopsis is quite drought-tolerant once established. Never fertilize. If you have extremely rich soil that produces excessive growth, you can shear plants back by half in midsummer to encourage bushier growth and more flowers. Otherwise, Coreopsis needs no maintenance. Deadheading is optional. Plants continue blooming without it, though removing spent flowers does extend the bloom season slightly. Divide every 3 to 4 years in spring to prevent the center of clumps from dying out. Coreopsis is cold-hardy to zone 4. Plant number 6, Echinacea, purple coneflower. Echinacea is a native prairie wildflower with large, daisy-like flowers featuring prominent central cones. The classic variety has purple-pink petals, but modern varieties come in white, orange, red, yellow, and bicolors. All varieties thrive without fertilizer. Here's why Echinacea performs better in lean soil. It's a native plant from the American prairies where soil is poor and summers are hot and dry. Echinacea developed deep taproots that reach far down for water and nutrients, making fertilizer unnecessary. When you fertilize Echinacea, it produces excessive foliage and tall, weak stems that require staking. The plant becomes more susceptible to diseases like powdery mildew and aster yellows. And flowering is actually reduced because the plant focuses on leaf growth. The key benefit is sturdy plants with strong stems that never need staking. Unfertilized Echinacea develops at a natural pace, producing thick, strong stems that support the large flowers without support. The flowers are produced abundantly from early summer through fall. The seed heads that form after flowering provide food for goldfinches and other birds. And the plants are deer-resistant and incredibly drought-tolerant. How to grow Echinacea without fertilizer. Plant in full sun in well-draining soil. Echinacea tolerates poor, rocky, or clay soil as long as it drains well. Avoid planting in rich, amended soil. Space plants 18 to 24 inches apart. Water regularly during the first season to establish the deep taproot, then water only during extended droughts. Echinacea is extremely drought-tolerant once established. Never fertilize. Deadhead spent flowers to encourage more blooms or leave seed heads standing in late summer and fall to feed birds. Cut back dead foliage in late fall or early spring. Divide every 4 to 5 years in spring if clumps become crowded, though Echinacea doesn't require regular division. Echinacea is cold-hardy to Zone 3. Plant number 7. Artemisia, Silver Mound or Powys Castle varieties. Artemisia is grown for its stunning silvery gray foliage that adds cooling color and contrast to gardens. Silver Mound forms perfect, dense mounds of feathery silver foliage about 12 inches tall. Powys Castle is larger, reaching 2 to 3 feet with deeply cut silver leaves. Here's why Artemisia requires zero fertilizer. It's native to dry, rocky areas with poor soil where few other plants survive. Artemisia evolved to thrive on minimal nutrients by growing slowly and efficiently. When you fertilize Artemisia, it grows too fast and loses its compact, mounded form. The center of the plant opens up and becomes floppy. The plants become prone to flopping over, especially after rain. And the silvery color can become less intense with excessive nitrogen. The key benefit is perfect silver mounds with zero maintenance. Unfertilized Artemisia develops into dense, tightly mounded plants that hold their form without support. The silvery foliage remains intense and bright. The plants are extremely drought-tolerant and deer-resistant, and they require almost no care beyond an occasional shearing if they get floppy mid-season. How to grow Artemisia without fertilizer. Plant in full sun in very well-draining soil. Artemisia prefers poor, sandy, or gravelly soil and will rot in rich, heavy soil. Space plants 18 to 24 inches apart. Water regularly during establishment, then water only during severe drought. Artemisia is extremely drought-tolerant and prefers dry conditions. Never fertilize. In fact, actively avoid rich soil or adding amendments. If Artemisia gets floppy or opens up in the center during midsummer, shear it back by half and it will regrow into a tight mound. Cut back dead foliage in spring. Artemisia is cold-hardy to Zone 4. In humid climates, choose varieties that tolerate humidity better, like Powys Castle. Now let me share some important tips for successfully growing perennials without fertilizer. First, soil preparation matters at planting time. While these plants don't need fertilizer, they do need good soil structure and drainage. When planting, focus on improving drainage rather than adding nutrients. Add sand, gravel, or perlite to heavy soils. Don't add compost, manure, or fertilizer. Second, use mulch wisely. A thin layer of mulch suppresses weeds and retains moisture, but don't pile it thick. Too much organic mulch breaks down and adds nutrients, which these plants don't want. Use gravel or stone mulch for Mediterranean plants like lavender and Artemisia. Third, water properly during establishment. Even drought-tolerant, no-fertilizer plants need regular water during their first growing season to establish deep roots. Water deeply, but less frequently to encourage roots to grow downward. Fourth, resist the urge to feed struggling plants. If a plant looks weak or yellow, your first instinct might be to fertilize. Don't. Instead, check drainage, assess light levels, and make sure you're not overwatering. These are usually the real problems, not nutrient deficiency. Fifth, embrace natural soil biology. These plants form relationships with beneficial soil microbes that help them access nutrients. Chemical fertilizers can actually disrupt these relationships. By avoiding fertilizer, you're supporting healthy soil ecology. Sixth, Choose the right plants for your conditions. These 7 perennials prefer lean soil, but they do need adequate sunlight. Most require full sun. Make sure you're meeting their other basic needs. Finally, be patient. Plants grown without fertilizer develop at a natural pace. They might not grow as fast as fertilized plants in their first year, but they're building stronger root systems and more durable growth. By year 2 or 3, they'll be thriving. And there you have it. 7 gorgeous perennials that flourish without any fertilizer and actually perform better when you don't feed them. From the fragrant beauty of lavender to the silvery elegance of Artemisia, from the continuous blooms of Coreopsis to the architectural presence of Russian sage, these plants prove that you don't need complicated feeding schedules or expensive fertilizers to have a stunning garden. In fact, the best approach is often to do less, not more. Thanks so much for watching this lazy gardener's guide to fertilizer-free perennials. If this video liberated you from fertilizer guilt and complicated feeding schedules, smash that like button and subscribe to the channel for more lazy gardening wisdom. Drop a comment below and tell me which of these 7 perennials you're most excited to grow, or confess how much money you've wasted on fertilizer that plants didn't actually need. And if you want to learn more about creating low-maintenance, sustainable gardens that work with nature instead of fighting it, check out the video I'm linking on your screen right now. I'll see you in the next one, and remember, sometimes the best thing you can do for your plants is absolutely nothing. Happy lazy gardening!